Thank you for joining.
Yeah,
I'm glad to have you as a guest here on Base to Base.
honored.
And
I'm honored.
hell yeah. So let's begin. When did you know music was going to be a part of your life?
Um, I don't know if there was a moment where it stood out. I knew there was a moment where I was like, I want to pursue music. Um, and it was actually when I was like probably like 8, 7 or 8. Um, Green Day's Dookie had just come out, and they had the music video for Welcome to Paradise. And so I was watching the music video, and I loved the music. And um, the video is just them, like, quote unquote, doing it live with the record track under it.
Mhm.
And there was just something about watching that show that made me go like, oh man, I want to do that. Like that would be so fun. And I think that moment was kind of the moment that made me go, okay, I want to. What's it going to take for me to continue on with this? You know. So I
Yeah.
think probably that moment. That's the moment that sticks out.
And like, what were your next steps? Like, because I mean, you're like 8 or so. So like,
So I
yeah.
was just a kid, and we were a poor family, so we didn't really have any instruments or anything like that. But um, it was probably like first or second grade, and my brother was at that point in fourth grade started playing the trumpet. And so basically the next step was, okay, I just got to get into fourth grade, and then I can start playing an instrument, and then I can get, and then they pushed back when you can learn an instrument. So I had to wait until the fifth grade. And I think the only thing our elementary school really offered was like choir. So I like sang,
Mm.
and it wasn't good. It was fifth graders. It was, it was bad. But as soon as I could get into band, I did. And so that was middle school. So the next step was I had to wait until middle school to start doing music.
What you play?
I started on the alto sax, and then on the summer from sixth to seventh grade, my band director absolutely lied to me because he needed a tuba player, and I was the biggest kid there. So he was like, okay, he could carry it. And so he told me that the best tuba players are sax players, which is a lie. There's no correlation. Um, and so I picked up tuba, and then I played tuba through middle school and in high school. Um, and I actually didn't really get into like guitar and bass until high school. Um, my parents bought my God, he had to have been like 16. My parents bought him a cheap secondhand store. It was like a pawn shop Squire electric guitar, and they were like, "You can't touch this guitar. This is not yours. This is your brother's guitar." And I was just like, "Man, I want to play the crap out of that thing." But my birthday came around, you know, a few months later, well, like half a year later, and I was able to convince my grandpa. He was like, "I'm not going to buy another guitar," and I was like, "Okay, can you buy me a bass guitar?" And so we found one for like $40 at a pawn shop. And so I got, a cheapo Squire bass, the starter pack bass.
Yeah.
And I played every day and just played all the time. And and then when my brother moved on to drums his like junior year in high school, so I was a freshman, I stole his guitar because he left it. So I started playing bass and I started learning guitar and I started trying to learn both of them. And then when my brother would be like at a friend's house or something, I would play the drums, even though it was one of those like uh
Step
that's
Brothers.
the Step Brothers thing where he's like, don't touch my drums. Like it was absolutely like that. And I never defiled them like they did in the movie, but I definitely played them. Um, and it was hard to get away with it when I would like break the sticks or something.
Busted.
Yeah, exactly.
So while you're like learning all of this, what's the kind of music that you're listening to?
I'm listening to like pop punk, um, um, Blink 182, Green Day. Um, at that time when I was starting to get into high school, like it was a big time for that kind of music. You had the like really very poppy punk rock. So you had like Simple Plan and oh gosh, there were so many bands that I can't even remember them. Um, there was a band that I really liked called the Riddling Kids. They're from Texas.
Yeah.
But it was that crazy point in time where the music industry was like, okay, we're going to exploit this to the max. And so you could find like quote unquote punk everywhere. I remember going to Target and there was a pop punk music video going on. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I like that. And I went straight to the CD section, found the CD, and then, bought it. And it was super accessible. So it was a lot of pop punk. Of course, there was like ska music. I started getting into the Aquabats around that time because my brother's friend Tom, so they were both seniors, and Tom was a huge Aquabats fan, and he would come over and he would jam with my brother, but my brother didn't really get into it. And I was like, dude, this music's awesome. Like, this is so cool. And then oddly enough, he and my brother kind of went away from each other, but he and I became really good friends. And so we went to a bunch of Aquabat shows and stuff. And but it really built up my ska repertoire. Streetlight Manifesto, Sum 41, that's not ska, but that's what I was listening to. I think a really fine point for me musically, like 2002 to 2004, there were a ton of albums that were just like huge influence for me during that time. And I'm trying to think what else. Real Big Fish, Suburban Legends, Mad Caddies, just a whole barrage of music. And then I was listening to my mom's like classic rock. She loved. I think it's a Mexican mom thing. Like they hate music, but then you put the Beatles on, and they're like, "Oh my gosh," like
Yeah.
Because my mom just will not listen to music, but you put the Beatles on, and it's like she's a teenager again.
Yeah.
But we'd listen to the oldies, and so I started learning some of the songs just to get my mom off my back. It's like, look, I'm learning songs, so like it should be good.
Yeah, man, that's the same for me. I grew up with my grandparents, so like my grandpa didn't care for anything new. It was all about like the oldies. So
Right.
it's like learn sleepwalk, learn how to play sleepwalk, and that was like the main song. Yeah, man, it's crazy you got into ska like so early, because I guess it just wasn't like popular for us like over here in Texas, or at least like me where I grew up. Do you think like, because did you grow up in California?
I grew up in Southern California. I'm Southern California born and raised. I grew up in Palm Springs, which is like the beautiful stepchild of Southern California in the sense of like you know, it's a big tourist place, all that. But when you grow up there, there's nothing there. Like, it's a terrible place to grow up. Um, there was just nothing for me as a kid. And we were poor, so that made it even harder because all the fun stuff is expensive.
Yeah.
Um, but my aunt, who like, so our dad left us, and his sister, you know, really filled in a lot of what was missing. You know, she would always try to make Christmas really great for us. Like, she went above and beyond, and so we were really close to her. And she married someone, and his taste in music all around was very like, he liked like Jimmy Buffett and Creed, so it was like, you know, whatever. But back in like around the time it came out, he had the Save Ferris album. And that was like my first exposure to ska music. And it was then like after that album, it was really like, okay, how can I listen to more stuff like this? And since I lived in Southern California, I don't know if it was more accessible. Like, I really don't know if it was more accessible, but we had like, shoot, what's the name of it? It was called Warehouse Music. So it was a big old, like, they had every CD, and they had a ska section. And so it was really easy to kind of like find stuff. So like, you know, for whatever reason, Tragic Kingdom was like in the popular new releases, but it was also in the ska section. And Real Big Fish's stuff was there, and Mustard Plug, and, you know, all Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and the Toasters. And so it was accessible. I didn't really understand it or like really appreciate it or call it my own until I was about in high school, but I definitely had access to it, and it always was cool to me.
Yeah. Yes.
There wasn't that weird stereotype where you're like, man, ska sucks, and people are like genuine about it, and you're like, why? Like, why do you hate it? Like, we didn't really have that too much, at least in the circle I was in. Palm Springs was a very like hardcore town, in that they really liked hardcore music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The desert just makes you angry. I don't know. So there weren't any like ska bands or anything out there, but it was me, Tom, and a few other friends who were like listening to it. And I was in band. So like, you show someone music, like a CD with horns in it, and they're like, I dig it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Hell yeah. So when did you want to start like pursuing like creating a band or joining a band?
I think instinctively I was doing it for a long time. Like, I was trying, but I just could never mesh with anyone. And then there was one time, it was either like an English class or an art class. It must have been a junior or senior. And I met this guy named Armin. And he like tried to join band, but he was joining it to play piano, and it didn't really work. But we ended up talking, and I found out he played guitar, and he was like, oh, you play drums, why don't you come being in my band? And so we ended up being in a band together. There was the bass player Blaze, and then the singer Cody, and we were like this weird rock funk kind of thing. We were called Red Star because, I don't know, man, like they really liked Rage Against the Machine and Red Hot Chili Peppers. And now I want to think of another red band. Red, I don't know. But they really dug all that music, and so we just made a bunch of music. I think we came out with like an EP. I had nothing to do with like the lyrics. I was drums. That was it. That's all I really did. But that was my first band, and we played a good amount of shows, being like teenagers and stuff. I have a Red Star tattoo. to cut, you know, to humble me, to keep me in that place where it's like, no matter how, wherever you are, remember, you were terrible once.
Uh,
Yeah.
for Red Star, where like, do you remember your first recording experience?
So we had a couple. So the first recording we ever did, we just did it in Armin's room. I think someone had like an 8-track recorder, digital recorder. And so we like recorded the first song, and it was so bad. Like the chorus and the verse, the time was totally off. Like I knew nothing about, you know, clicks or anything like that. We just performed it. It was rough. And then we recorded a couple more songs kind of in that same way, but we did it at Cody's house. A little more upgraded gear. And then Armin's dad had a connection with a guy who had a studio, and it was like in LA. And we were like, oh crap, we're gonna go record in a studio, blah blah. And like it was a studio, but this guy recorded like mariachi bands and bandas and stuff. So like his perspective on rock music wasn't necessarily accurate. But it was a good experience. You know, I was in the drum room and had Armin with a guitar, and again, we weren't doing any click or anything like that. And it's crazy to kind of look back at it and be like, that was a very like raw and like cool experience. But I would net like if I recorded a new band like fresh faces who've never recorded before, I'd be like, no, don't do that, man.
Yeah, I bring it up because like, I mean, you whenever we're like collabing, like you send something so quickly and it's so like clear and like you just knocked it out, and just from how we started, because I went to some random dude's house one time with my first band, and like it was cool, but it's like now I'm just older and I can like produce the same stuff from this room, you know, like
I think that's, you know, I've always recorded at home. I had a job when I was 16, and I paid for my own car and I paid for my own phone. Like, you know, I quote unquote, I had to hustle. But I would like save my money to buy recording equipment. And I remember the first interface I bought was an M audio interface, and I just used some like program I downloaded from LimeWire, you know, and I just started recording, and I would record all the parts because there was no one who liked the music I liked that wanted to do music. So it was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I got to do it by myself. And I actually found a hard drive recently that has all like the first record. I'll send it to you later. It is rough. But I think, you know, I think technology has made it so that you can do those kind, you know, I'm not going to have like a perfect audio come out like Goldfinger, you know, John Feldman, he has like a crazy studio and crazy equipment and all that stuff. I'm not going to have a recording that sounds like that, but I have a recording that I can publish and I can send out, and it can compete. You know, I can make a profit from it. And I have to say that that's like technology has just advanced so much that you can have $1,000 budget and buy enough equipment to make a studio. And it's just crazy to think that like I'm not necessarily doing anything different than I did when I was a kid and recording in a room and all of that stuff. But it is technology wise, it's night and day. It is so different, you know? If I would have known 15 years ago that I could have like a good home studio where I could record stuff and it sounds good, I, you know, probably would have made a heck of a lot more effort at that time. So yeah, it's crazy to think how technology has just changed everything. You know, like I have the new Mac Mini, and it was cheap for a computer. For I had like some discount, so it was like $500, and it's a workhorse. Like it does everything I need and then some, and I'll have 30 tracks going, and there's no lag, there's no anything. I don't need like a giant Mac Pro, 400 gigabyte hard drive or RAM kind of thing. It's just you just kind of plug and play and go, and it's I don't know. It's just crazy that we get to kind of be in that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I think I was with you too, like using Audacity or something to just to record, or getting like these knockoff auto tune VSTs and stuff back in the day. Um, so okay, so after Red Star, where'd you go like musically?
So after Red Star, I had graduated high school. I oh shoot, I was about to skip. I worked at a music place in the desert, musicians outlet. It's no longer there. Um, and one of the guys, Pedro, he played drums, and he was in a band that for the desert was a really like they were a popular band. They called themselves Jane Eyre, and they were like a hardcore band, screamo. And he was like, we're starting a new project, and um, we need a bass player. Do you want to do it? And I was like, sure. And so I went, and I think it was more of like a brand new, like a post punk kind of emo vibe. Um, but Peter, man, he was such a good like his big influence was Travis Barker, and he like practiced, so he nailed it, man, and he was so good. But I learned kind of like the intricacies of simple playing, not playing too much. It was a step up. Like they had been in bands for like five years or something, and they were a couple years older than me, and so I learned a lot about like that expectation. I was really underprepared for it, and so coming into that, it was like, okay, I need to change my game. And we played a couple shows, but for whatever personal reasons or whatever, I ended up moving to LA, and ended up in a suburb close to Pasadena where some of my family lived. And I went to Citrus College, which was the same college that the No Doubt people went to. And like one of my music teachers was one of No Doubt's trumpet players, and took a shoot, what was it? It was like a pop rock class. So you basically rotated into getting in bands and playing with different people and started music and stuff. And I was just like, you know what? I want a ska band. I freaking want a ska band. And so I posted a bunch of posters all over the campus saying I'm looking for a ska band. And people called up. And we started the Toyotas, which was my first ska band. So that was like 2008, 2009. And it was Alfredo who played trumpet, Mikey who played trombone. We had a rotating cast of drummers, and then we had John who played bass, and I played guitar and sang, and I had no right to sing. And then we had Tori, who was the second guitarist. And so we were together for like a year and a half, and we played a bunch of shows. Like we played a lot of shows, and we were mildly successful, like minimally successful in like Lake Elsinore, which is, one of the cities in the deserty part. But we ended up playing with like we played the Whiskey A Go Go, but it was like a pay for play. So it was fun, but kind of a ripoff.
Yeah.
We played a ton of backyard shows, and those were always backyard shows are where it's at, man. Those need to come back. Um, and then we played some venues throughout Southern California, and it was really fun. It was really fun. And then before we could really take off, I moved to San Diego for college, and it was basically a big break from like bands and stuff. Um, yeah, I took a big break because I was doing music in college and just kind of busy with that. And that's actually because of college. I went to San Diego Christian College, and they had little like campus bands and stuff like that. And the lady Tony who put those bands on, she pushed me and she was like, "You have to play the click. You have to." And so I spent hours just locking into click. And I think like when you said my turnaround's pretty quick on music, it's because I was just like, I have to get the click down or else it doesn't work. And so I think that actually helped a ton to get that quick turnaround, because I'm not really messing around too much outside of like nailing down the click. And you know, yeah. So went to college, and then got out of college, got married, moved to Orange County, and then it was a little bit of time, and then started up my band Good Luck Ugly. And then this last year actually got some members from the old band, but then some other great bands we played with and brought back the Toyotas. So right now the active bands are Good Luck Ugly and the Toyotas. They're both active right now. So that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you're a teacher. Did you go to school to become a teacher, or did
yeah. I knew I wanted to teach music when I was in high school. I had a really good high school music teacher. I went to Palm Springs High School, and he treated me good. And the program was crazy. Like we had like 120 kids in the program, and while I was there, we went to Scotland, Denmark, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand, and performed. Yeah. And so like band was always such a really good, like I had a really rough home life, and band was always the escape. And so I was like, I want to teach that. Like, I don't want to teach math or science. I want to teach that. And so I went to college and I got my degree in music. But I was really, I don't want to say dumb, but I was really naive about how I planned my educational process. Looking back, I would have done it a lot different, but I had what I had and did what I did. So I didn't become a teacher until like 2 years after I graduated. And then now this will be my 6th year teaching. So I didn't go specific. I went to get at least the content of what I was going to teach, but I'd probably go back and actually do like music education or something like that to learn those tricks of the trade of how to teach music better. I know music really well, and so now I'm on the path of how do I teach music better. So, you know, I would have gone for that, but originally went for music because I was going to be a professional musician.
Yeah. I wish I finished college. I started, didn't finish it. So music teaching, how's being a music teacher during this whole like pandemic?
Sucks. It's, you know, I have to give credit where credit is due. Kids are fantastic. They're resilient. I don't wish this upon them. I wish we as adults could have done a better job. But the kids are so awesome and so resilient. And, you know, I had really, really, really good kids in my program. And so we we were able to end up recording some songs, and we'll publish those. But the experience sucked. Like, it's not fun to teach music. It's not fun to teach anything. But when you have something that is so communal as music, it sucks because like, the kids depend on each other to get better. My classroom is very like, work together, work on your own, work together, work on your own, work together. Like, I give the kids lots of practice time where I can kind of construct how they're practicing so that they're not worrying about it at home. I work at a school that has a lot of underprivileged kids who have to like work. And so, my expectation of them is like, do your best and get better. And however you need to do that, do that. And I'll just give you room in classroom to hopefully get some of that done. And so to have that classroom and that space removed for a whole year and a half was just terrible. Though I do think the kids understand music theory a lot better, I'm really excited to get back into the classroom and kind of get back into that communal experience of band.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You're going back to school this next school year?
Yeah.
Cool.
As far as I understand it, we're like, there may be masks required in certain aspects, but we're high school, so it's I don't know how. I'm vaccinated, so I feel comfortable kind of doing whatever, make sure the kids are safe.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, we're going back to the classroom, and then if we have to practice in a big room that we normally wouldn't practice, so we have to practice outside, we'll make do. But at least we'll be in the classroom in some way, shape, or form instead of online.
Yeah. So during this pandemic, what have you been doing, like with Good Luck Ugly and the Toyotas? Like, how is practice and writing going?
Well, before the pandemic hit, Good Luck Ugly, we actually parted ways with our drummer, and but there was a lot of music that I was writing, and then the pandemic hit, and it was like, well, we can't really practice, can't do this or that. And so I talked to the bass player, Chris, and I was just like, I want to get this album out, but I don't know. I think the best way or the easiest way, considering the pandemic, is if I just record everything. And so he was like, okay, do your thing. And so I ended up recording, a full album by myself where I performed it, wrote it, mixed it, sent it off to get mastered, because I still don't know some of that stuff. I know more now, but then I didn't. And so I wrote an album and produced and published it in like 3 months, I think. So we moved into a new house in June, and I built my little studio in the garage. And then I think from like September to September to December, whenever it came out, that was all writing, recording, producing, all that stuff. And so, it was hard with full-time job, wife and a kid. And then somewhere in that time found out my wife was pregnant with our second kid. So it was like, oh gosh, everything's happening. But I got it done. And so that was cool. And then got the Toyotas back together. We were able to record in, quarantine, COVID friendly kind of way. And now I think I know Chris got the vaccine, and I'm pretty sure everyone in the Toyotas is vaccinated. So we're looking to kind of get practices back together. The Toyotas, we're working on releasing some music, recording and releasing some music. But I think in the quarantine, I've written more songs in the last year and a half than I've written like in my whole life. I think I've written like 30 songs during this quarantine.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's because like you want to go hang out with that family? We can't. So we're gonna be home. The kids are asleep. My wife's asleep. My brain's going 1,000 miles an hour. I guess I'll go write some music. So yeah, that's the one thing I can say as far as the pandemic goes. Like, there's been a lot of music writing, and the Toyotas will be recording hopefully as the pandemic is starting to draw to its end. But during the quarantine, release an album, release a Toyota song. We'll be releasing a cover song this week, or whenever this is released, it'll be the past. But
Yeah.
We'll have released a cover song, and because this is for the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we did Law by MU330 because
Okay.
like we covered that song when we were a band, and everyone always thought we wrote it. They were like, "Oh man, I love that song you guys wrote Law." And I'm like, we didn't write it. That's MU330. And so we were like, well, we might as well cover it because we got that kind of reputation behind it. And so we did that, and then we'll be finished writing and recording. I don't know if it'll be an album or an EP, but that'll probably come out this year or early next year. Depends on what happens with the quarantine and stuff. We'd love to get with a label and distribute and all that stuff, but who knows?
Yeah, for sure. It's so funny. Young Costello, we cover "Hey" from Suicide Machines.
Okay.
And like everyone thinks it's our song.
Yeah. It's like the fun yet kind of bad part about picking like an obscure song, even though like Law was on their live album, like they did it a lot.
Yeah.
But like people just don't know it, and you pick that obscure song and we're like, I love that song, you guys. Man, it's like we didn't make it. I didn't do it.
Yeah, not us. Yeah. No, but that's really funny. And then for people who don't know, I just met you on Twitter, like,
yes,
I think for the Garth Brooks cover, just like really randomly.
Yeah, because I think it was I tweeted like there should be like a country. There should be ska country covers or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you were already working on some. Yeah. And so I think it all kind of came from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. And the back and forth is just so quick. Cause like also what I've been doing is like doing covers with friends. So I've had already like 10 covers that like just had little pieces here or there to fill in. So it just worked out. Like again, you just put out the parts like so quickly. So it's like, okay, like I'm gonna do the same. So when you're asking for the other cover bass parts, it's like I'm gonna knock this out. I'm gonna just get it done.
I'm sorry for giving you that kind of expectation.
No, it's good. Like for the quarantine, for what it is too, like it kind of pushed me to, make the podcast and reach out to people. Cause I mean, for the most part, like I just stay to myself. So this is all a new experience. I'm a little more comfortable now. And with you too, since we're like tweet at each other all day or whatever, but yeah, it's wild. It's probably the best thing to come out of the quarantine.
Yeah.
Being able to connect with people you normally wouldn't.
Well, and then too, you're getting that experience of connecting with some like really cool musicians.
Yeah.
Which, I'm excited for this season, and
yeah, it's crazy. It's wild.
It's crazy. It's wild. And so, but I think that too, like, maybe that is the upside. There's very little upside of the pandemic. Like COVID is horrible. Go get vaccinated. Yes. But I think like the one upside is everyone felt it.
Yeah.
like everyone from the richest person to the poorest person to the famous people to the unknown, like everyone felt it. And I think that in some way like connected people
Yeah.
in a weird way. And so like even the people that we felt were unreachable are now like at arm's length in some way, digitally arm's length. Um, and so there's that weird thing where like, you know, Scott Kloppenstein from Real Big Fish, like he follows. Did I say that right? I bet I didn't. I'm Mexican. I don't pronounce things right. Um, but he, you know, like he follows us and he likes our stuff. And I'm just like, I idolized you and I still do. Like, why? How does it? And I think it just shrank the world a little bit um, in a lot of ways. And I think that there is that cool change that I hope that that stays a little bit, you know, um, as life slowly starts to kind of go back to normal. Um, I do hope that 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 aspect remains strong, and if anything, people lean into it a little more.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. To like touch on that, like there's so much that you can do with just an email. Like you just reach out or don't be creepy, but like a DM to, someone you like or follow, like could be.
Don't be creepy.
Don't be creepy.
That's what I forgot to do. Man, I gotta fix that.
Yeah, don't be creepy, but like I don't know, just an email, even for shows, like it goes for shows and stuff, sending a message or an email to a promoter or a venue, like you never know what can happen.
Yeah, and I think it like in that same way, I think it's made those people who like promoters and venue people used to feel miles away before the pandemic, and now it feels like, well, I'm just gonna send a message, and you get responses back sometimes, and you're like, shoot, okay, let's do something with this, you know. So I feel you there for sure. Yeah.
So what can we expect for the rest of 2021 in the future for your acts?
I think like the Toyotas will have new music. Good Luck Ugly. I know we just released that album, but I think I'm gonna try to get, because that's more of a like pop punk with a little bit of ska. Mm-hmm. And this last album, there was a lot more ska, but I think I'm gonna pull that back and leave the ska to like the Toyotas, and so this will be more pop punk. And I think we might try to get like an EP, because there were some songs that didn't get on the album that are still solid songs that could do good in an EP form. And then you know, we got Holy Shnikes building up. So we're just doing some covers. And so yeah, I've got like a list of cover songs that I want to do, and you've got you know a big old list, but we're doing Good For You,
Olivia
Rodrigo, and we got the lead singer from Megawave.
Yeah, that's gonna be exciting.
And there's so much stuff kind of going on there. So I think to answer your question more concisely is there's a lot of stuff coming out. Exactly what, I don't know, but I feel like there's just a lot of projects and a lot of great movement going. I know you and I will probably be on a comp or two coming up, and so that there's that. And you know, I think that might be more prevalent, because you know, I think a lot of the DIY labels are starting to really push for that, and I think that's great. So my big hope, the thing I'm really hoping for that isn't set in stone, but one of my plans for 2021 is get some shows like going, you know, Love to play some shows. So working on that for sure. But lots of music coming out. Hopefully some shows. Um, Lots of different stuff too. So be on the lookout. And
Yeah, yeah. You got to come to Texas.
I know.
We'll get. I'm telling you, you can stay here. I'll get you some Tex Mex enchiladas. My family owns a restaurant.
Oh
Come
shoot.
on, come. It's all
And
here.
then you'll come to California
Yeah.
and I'll take you to Disneyland because
Hey. Yeah.
that's where everyone wants to go. And then
Uh,
I'll give you West Coast Mexican food, which is
burritos.
no, it's seafood,
Oh, yeah.
and it's very lime oriented,
Perfect. Yeah.
which is delightful.
Yeah.
It's that weird. It is that weird thing of like you and I have probably a very similar background, but it's that thing of like you're kind of that East Coast Chicano and I'm the West Coast Chicano. It's like,
Yeah.
and I say that in the scope of Mexico, the East Coast of Mexico, not the East Coast of America. You're
Yeah.
in the South. You're Southwest. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's definitely a difference. When we go up to LA, like the food, like the Mexican food, and I mean, to me, is like more Mexican, authentic. Like for us over here, we're like Tex Mex, which is still Mexican influence, but still has a different Texas.
I feel
thing.
like the vibe to it is something to do with the ingredients.
Yeah.
Like there are similar ingredients, but like salsa in Texas and even in that part of Mexico that's close to the border,
Mhm.
it tastes so different than like what you're gonna see in like Baja or like Mazatlan or something like that. And I think it's ingredients, but that's a different conversation.
We'll just make a food podcast and
Yeah.
talk about different kind of Mexican food.
Oh, that would be so good.
I mean,
And then we would eat it. That's
yeah.
all. That's it.
All right. We're gonna go to Orange County.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people listen to you? And yeah, where can they listen to you?
Spotify, or any streaming thing. So if you look up Good Luck Ugly or the Toyotas, I'm almost positive we're the only thing that pops up. Because Good Luck Ugly is such a dumb name that it like I try to pick names that like mean something to me, but also like if you search for it, there's nothing else. And so Good Luck Ugly, the Toyotas. The thing that's good about the Toyotas is like no other band comes up. Tons of toy Yodas come up, but what's funny is like that name has nothing to do with like the toys that or Yoda for that matter, but like my mom who doesn't speak English when she sees a Toyota car, like a Toyota Corolla, she's like Toyota. And it's like that's a T, ma. There's no D there. Toyota. But Toyotas, we're on all the streaming sites. We have like Bandcamp. Good Luck Ugly has some merch. Toyotas has some stickers. What's the Holy Schnikes? Is that
Holy Schnikes Ska is everything.
Holy Schnikes Ska?
Yeah.
And I guess you could follow me on Twitter. What's my thing? Mike Like Ska.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we touched all bases.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. I'm pretty sure I could talk to you for like another hour or two. So we'll wrap it up for now. But yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, meeting with you, face to face, kind of.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, honestly. Like, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, had tons of fun. I will catch up with you later, and you just have a good day.
You too, man.
All right, man. Later.
All right. See ya.
I always see your Dodgers stuff,
Oh
and I
yeah,
see my.
big. Yeah, I love it. We're my we were raised by my grandpa,
Mhm.
and he was really tight with the Dodgers. Like when my grandma retired, Tommy Lasorda wrote her a letter, and we have Steve Garvey's bat, and I went to probably like 30 or 40 games within a 8-year span. So we have like a deep connection with the Dodgers.
That's awesome,
So
man.
seeing someone in Texas with some Dodger swag is pretty good.
Yeah, my stepdad, he grew up in LA, and so
Okay.
he'll go like every few years, and we'll go to a Dodgers game or something. But yeah, we got like really big, or I got really big into it whenever they had Manny Ramirez.
Yeah.
Like
So like
like
2009, 10, 11.
yeah, it's been a minute, and then I'll catch games here and there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
We
I
only have cable for Dodger baseball. That's the only reason.
that's so funny because when we get cable, it's to watch like the Spurs play.
Yeah.